Hi there, my name is Richie Wilson. I'm a production manager and video lighting designer technician. I've been working in Scotland in the live events industry for 20 odd years now.
Okay. So what were you doing before the lockdown?
Before lockdown, we were doing a lot of corporate work, also Academy in Glasgow and a couple of other venues, and planning ahead for the summer for some festival work and some large festivals over the summer. That was pretty much up till March the 19th, which was my last day at work before this all started.
And what did you know about the COVID situation before?
We were aware of it happening. I do work in Malaysia over the summer doing a large festival, and being in contact with people over there, we were aware that there was a new sort of pandemic. Well, no, that's not true. I'm going to try that one again. So, knowing some people in Asia at a festival I work at in the summer, we were aware that there was a new sort of form of contagion coming out of China, but only what we were aware of really on the UK news, which was that Asia had a new epidemic going on, but it wasn't going to affect us at all, and we were all going to be fine.
Okay. And I know it's not much of a social life yet working in events, but how did that affect you beforehand?
Well, I mean, the social life that we had is a lot of it in our industry is to do. You socialise with a lot of your work friends, but I basically went into lockdown. I lived by myself. I didn't see family for a number of weeks. I didn't see friends for a number of months in some cases. Only now catching up with people I haven't seen for 5 or 6 months that I would normally see twice a week. So yeah, socially, you became very, very isolated very, very quickly, and it was quite difficult on occasion as well.
So what happened during lockdown? Can you describe the process? Was it sudden, or did it just peter out?
I would say lockdown came in sort of work-wise, lockdown came in 2 stages. The initial gigs that were going on the weekend, I think it was the last weekend in March that lockdown hit, all of the gigs got cancelled. Then we found that 3 weeks worth of gigs for the rest of the month got cancelled. Then over that 3 weeks, the rest of the gigs for the year slowly started to drift away, and eventually all of the big promoters and all of the big corporate clients that I have basically cancelled everything for the year, and there has been no real word on when we will ever start back up again, because we have no way to book things, because we have no knowledge of when we're going to be able to deal with events again based on vaccines and our ratings and whatever information we can get out of government.
What changed in your day-to-day?
I went from having things to do to having absolutely nothing to do. There was literally a big hole in my diary and my time. There was a lot of walking around the house and then walking around the streets and trying to get out, keep healthy, keep exercising, but you have suddenly no purpose to your life, because everything that you do to make money, to satisfy your work-life balance and all of that is completely and totally wiped away, and was done so within 2 or 3 days.
And how did you feel?
Isolated, hollow. I have suffered from depression and a small amount of anxiety as well. It took a lot of work to combat that. We started up support structures among colleagues and friends, checking in on each other every couple talking on Zoom calls just to be able to sort of see other faces and other human beings that we knew, to try and combat any sense of isolation, which helped a lot, but it was still very, very difficult. Even trying to talk to your neighbours was a difficult thing, because no one really knew at the time what we should be doing, how far away we should be keeping, how isolated we should be, how contagious all of this was. So yeah, it was very difficult at the start, and very difficult to understand what we needed to do to try and combat it.
Okay, so after the main lockdown period, what happened?
After the main lockdown period, I lost my father at the very start of lockdown through cancer rather than anything else. So we had his funeral. I'll start again. We didn't have a funeral, did we? Because we weren't fucking allowed one. So after the initial lockdown, I was isolated. I lived by myself. So, I've got a PlayStation. I survived. But we lost my stepfather at the very start of this lockdown. So after we had the moratorium, the last time I saw my mum for nearly 5 weeks, which was very, very difficult. And it was only after it's still difficult to sort of go through that process of healing and grieving and things like that when you're trying to do it over the phone and without being allowed to be in each other's company. And we're now still trying to go through that process and trying to deal with a lot of things that had happened at the time. The fact that we couldn't have a service we wanted and other unfortunate things that came around from that situation. We're trying to, generally with my friends, we're trying to reconnect with people. We're trying to make sure that people are okay, make sure that people have got through this. A lot of people families have been stuck in together for a long, long time, trying to get them back out, trying to get a lot of people in society for obvious reasons of contamination, fear of catching COVID, and it's just difficult to try and sort of walk back into society when at the moment society hasn't really come back together at all in any sort of recognisable way. And I think it's going to be a long, long time before that happens.
So what are you hoping will happen for the future? Are you making any plans to change anything, to try and get back into work? Or?
Well, looking at the future, the companies I work with and for, we're looking at much more of a virtual and live streaming platforms to cover people's needs just now and trying to connect with people, trying to do training sessions. We are working with government departments, with other companies and other people in the supply chains to try and build up safe working practices, to come back to do live events when we're allowed to, when it's deemed safe by the governments that we can do these. We need to be ready and we need to be prepared, and it's a constantly evolving and changing process, but it's what we're having to do. We have to be ready to go whenever we're told we can, and most of that at the moment is looking through new regulations, looking through old regulations, trying to get standard practices in place which are going to be safe for everybody. Punters, management, workers backstage, workers front stage, everybody who's involved in the industry has to be considered to make sure that it's safe to bring our working environments back again.